Welcome, Santa Barbarans, to another episode of Santa Barbara Forum. I am your guest host, Howard McLaren, and I have with me today a good friend of mine and co-board member of Stand Up Santa Barbara, Justin Shores. He's with me today to talk about an upcoming event with Dr. Robert Malone, MD, on the 19th of March. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you, Elrod. Very excited to be here. So excited about our event that we're having.
You are. So just tell me and the audience just a little bit about this event. Who's Dr. Malone? Why is he coming to Santa Barbara?
Dr. Robert Malone is an internationally known scientist, inventor, and virologist. He's patented a lot of the mRNA technology, so he's part of the creation of a lot of the vaccines that we're using now. So he's very well known. He's also somewhat of a pariah in some ways because of his speaking out against the mandates, especially for children, and that's his platform right now has grown immensely because of his stance against mandates for children, which is a reason why we really connected with him. But he is from Goleta, which is a huge thing, and I think we're really blessed to have him from our community because it really humanizes somebody like this. He grew up here. He grew up on avocado orchards and worked his way up, and then went to City College. I believe he went to Dos Pueblos High School as well. So, and at City College, he was the class president for a year, and helped start the computer science lab. So he has a lot of deep history here, a lot of deep roots. His mom was a well-known teacher, well-respected teacher here. So more roots or more history than I know. So I can't wait to meet him in person and learn out more about his local history, because I think it means a lot.
So you talked about how Dr. Malone is really strongly advocating for kids. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a father, aren't you?
Correct. Yeah, I have 2 kids, and it's why I became active. It's there's the reason I'm politically active is, for one, I love my kids, and 2, I love California. I love my state. I love Santa Barbara. I grew up north. I grew up in Lake Tahoe. So 2 beautiful places that are worth working hard for, and working hard to make sure that the future is better, making sure that we have energy, that we can have better education, that we can really have a future for our children and for future generations.
Yeah, I agree. I think the children are the future, and one of the things that I know you've done is speaking out at a lot of school board meetings.
Yeah, most of my activism has been at school board meetings. Santa Barbara Unified knows me well, so I'm very vocal at the board meetings. Because I go to the board meetings, I'm a lot more aware than most people of how everything works and who's coming and who's going to these meetings, and you start to connect a lot more dots when you become more aware of what's happening. And I think it's really important to be aware as parents and as community members to know what's going on in your local schools and your local councils. There's critical decisions being made at these meetings, so it's highly important for us to engage and to be involved.
So you're currently active. There's this big event going on with Dr. Malone. How many people are going to be there?
We expect probably about 3,000 people.
Okay, so you've arrived at this point where there's a big event, there's a lot of political things going on, but let's go back to the beginning, per se, because I assume you weren't always politically active growing up, I assume, or was that the case?
I wasn't always active, and in Santa Barbara, it's pretty well known that it's one-sided on the party side of it. There's one side that's in control in when it comes to a party politic. I believe it's that we really need candidates, and as much as nobody should really want to run, for the reasons of fame or for notoriety or anything. We need good people to run for these offices. So we need people that have good resumes and that are exciting to vote for. When I look at a ballot these days, there's no excitement. There's no excitement in any of the party candidates. They all have been selected by the party, and we're stuck with them. We have no choice. They kick everyone else out.
So when you say they're not supported by the party, are you talking about the Democrat Party?
Well,
are you talking about the Republican Party?
The Democratic Party selects candidates for us, so they'll choose the winner and give us no other option. Mm-hmm. The Republican Party doesn't have any candidates ready. They don't have anyone in the bullpen, to say, in a sports term.
Yeah.
So they're not growing candidates from youth. They're not training their replacements. If you're in any business or any organization, you should always train your replacement. If you're a leader, you should be training the next person to take your spot, so that it's successful and sustainable.
Yeah.
There needs to be succession plans for politics.
So basically, the Republican Party is in disarray. They don't have anybody, and the Democrat Party is just basically selecting candidates. So both parties are not what the community needs, essentially, is what you're saying.
Well, they're not. They're never going to be a voice for the community, and without support, it's really hard. So a lot of people get discouraged. They don't have money. They don't have time. They don't have volunteers. They don't have a base to do what's needed to do to win a political election. Mm-hmm. And especially during the last few years with COVID being even harder to get in front of people and be able to talk to people face to face, because I think that's where it's really important, is getting in front of people and talking to them and lowering prejudices, making it so people know who you are and what you stand for without having a filter of the local media or a soundbite that is picked out of context. So it's really important to get people in front of the candidates, get candidates that are exciting, and work hard, because it's you got to earn the vote.
So there was a lack of good candidates, and the parties were not really helping there. And so what kind of action did you take, and why?
Well, so my vision years ago, before I even started stand-up, was that we need candidates. We need to be able to build candidates from the bottom up. So we need fundamentals. We need to be able to know what we're doing when we're in office. Because a lot of people right now, even if they were elected, would not be quite ready. Even myself, I think it would. There's going to be a big learning curve for most of us. So my vision was to start getting people more involved. And so Stand Up Santa Barbara started with the idea of facilitating civic engagement, making it easy for people to be involved in the local meetings, giving them a couple clicks and they're in the meeting, rather than having to really search for the meetings online, know how to log in with all the different forms of communication that are used in all the different meetings. It's hard to participate. So I think what's needed is an infrastructure to make that easy, to bridge the gap between a very tough, confusing process that is already that's going to take a lot of time out of people's days to understand, and making that easy so it's accessible, and so people can get more involved quicker and start to see the real meat of what's there, see what goes on at these meetings. Mm-hmm. So say you do get office, you'll be more effective. You'll get more out of it. So it's an important thing, I think, to get people to these meetings. Get people, the basics of it is in being at the board meetings. At every board meeting you can. If you're a parent, you should be at your kid's school board meeting.
So you then took this idea and you ran for office, correct?
Yeah, I saw the need for candidates. I ran for office because I felt like it was a calling. I felt like it was needed to do. And I lost. It was for Goleta City Council, but it was a great run. I learned so much, and I don't regret any minute of it. So I really appreciate the struggle for candidates in Santa Barbara. I know what it takes. I know that it's going to be a hard fight for anyone that wants to put their hat in the ring. And so they need support. They need help. They need people behind them saying, good for you. Thank you for taking this sacrifice, because it's a sacrifice. It's not for fun to run for most of these offices. It's tough. You don't make a lot of people happy.
Yeah.
You take time out of your home life, your family life, which is important to balance. And they are involved as well. It's your family is running with you. Your family is part of it when you are running for candidacy for office.
And when you were mentally thinking and preparing for running as a candidate, was your family supportive?
Oh yeah.
How much did they factor into that decision of, okay, I'm going to run for office, this is what I'm going to do? Because that's a big decision. It's not many people do it, and yeah, like you said, it's very difficult. I mean, I myself ran for office, and it's quite the challenge. Yeah.
My wife is amazing. She's definitely a partner in my life. So I have her, which is more than I could ask for. She's been there for me in all those decisions. She's going to be with me forever. I love her, and she loves me. So we will make it through any decisions that we make together. And this was a decision we made together. My kids are amazing. My son, one of the best moments.
How old are your kids?
My kids, Anderson is 7 and Victoria is 4. One of the best moments as a father was in my campaign, and I was at the beach announcing my candidacy. This was during deep COVID, so it was we couldn't do anything inside. It was everyone was scared, so I maybe had 50 people there. But I announced my candidacy, and then my son disappeared, and he was 5 years old at the time, and he disappears, and I ran after him because I just finished my speech, and I was like, Anderson, what's wrong? And he was looking out at the beach just weeping, and he said, Papa, I'm just so proud of you. And he just hugged me, and it was the best moment of my life, of my fatherly life. I can't compare anything to what that moment was when my son told me he was proud of me. It was just, it was amazing. So, sorry. But that and my daughter, she's going to be obviously getting more aware now as she's getting older, but she is amazing too. I've been blessed.
Yeah. So your kids played a big part to decide, I'm going to make this run. You had your wife's support, and I assume that you were, in a sense, doing it for them, in a sense, because I know that you said you've been going to these school board meetings and speaking out. Were your children in the school district at the time when you started all of this?
My son was about to go into kindergarten, so I started paying attention to the curriculum and just to how things worked at the board meeting. So when I saw that what Santa Barbara Unified did, when they put through Teen Talk with so much parent backlash, there was thousands of people that signed a petition, hundreds of people that showed up in person to protest it. But they still put it in. They still ignore the will of the people. And they acted like they weren't even there. And then I also got to see the way that the special interest groups really come alongside the school board and help usher in that curriculum that is backed by the special interest groups themselves, and sometimes even written by them. So it's pretty awful how culture is shaped by special interest groups and a party, especially when it comes to an area like Santa Barbara, which is so one-sided, as I mentioned before. We should not have party politics creating the culture of the schools. It should be more organic, more parental involved, and more community-based. I think if we focus more on what unites us in Santa Barbara? What is, rather than what divides us? We really should focus on how beautiful and how amazing Goleta and Santa Barbara is. I mean, this is an amazing place to be, and we have a lot of good people, amazing people in our community, so many people on all sides. So, I mean, I love Santa Barbara. I love the people of Santa Barbara. I mean, we're so blessed with the people that we have, especially when we leave politics aside. When we stop talking about politics, most of us can have a great conversation. We can become partners. We can be friends. We can work together and get critical things done.
What would you say? I would agree. Santa Barbara is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's amazing. And there's a lot of great people that live here. What are some of those unifying things that really can bring the community together? What do you say?
I think education is a big thing. Most people really care about education on all sides. While some good intentions are used incorrectly, education is still a very big thing where we want our kids to have a good education. And that's hard to argue with. Getting to that education, how we get there, is to be debated, and it needs to be debated. It needs to be looked at. There needs to be more accountability for the horrible numbers that the school board or the schools are having, and even in our beautiful area of Santa Barbara.
When you say numbers, you're talking about like literacy and math skills,
math,
and those kind of things.
Things that are the basics of learning that I found my son, being such a good learner, has made everything else, or such a good reader, has made everything else for him so much easier. When you give your kids a thirst and a hunger for reading, they can understand the questions. They understand more when they can read and they really understand the words. Then they'll understand math and science and history and everything so much more, because those words mean something to them and they can process them much better, and that's where critical thinking really comes into play. Knowing how to answer the question, because you know the words, you know the basics.
Yeah, definitely education is, I would say, universal. I don't think there's not one parent who wants their kid to read, to be able to do math. Like, it's very fundamental, like you said. Are there any other things or topics that are very unifying, and could even be non-political in this community?
I think Stand Up Santa Barbara's platform has tried to give people a couple issues that we all can work on together, that people will be passionate about, that people can agree on in most cases. One of those is education. The second is medical freedom. And while this is a controversial topic right now, this should not be a controversial topic. We are in a town of medical freedom. This is Santa Barbara, where Walter Capps' legacy is medical freedom. We are not going the way that Santa Barbara should have gone when it comes to giving people a choice in their medical decisions over the last few years.
Yeah, how would you define medical freedom? Like, what does that mean?
I would first define it with informed consent. And that it starts with giving people information instead of hiding information from people. And I think California and in general, the public health departments have silenced dissent. Hard. They've shut down dissent. So they're not allowing the science conversation, which really needs to happen. Science is never settled. One of the first things I learned was science is not settled, and silence is always a question, and it's always going back and reevaluating. And that's not done politically. Politically, it's always forward. I mean, you're seeing legislation that is so outdated. They're still talking about mandating the vaccines when the rest of the world in California, for students, when the rest of the world is stopping. But legislation keeps moving forward. They don't have brakes or a off ramp, and that's the reason why I think this this movement is not over, especially in California. I think there's a lot more of a push for medical freedom now than ever. We're going to have to stand up for it, and we're going to have to be vocal about it and get to the table.
So medical freedom is just informed consent?
Informed consent. Medical censorship is a thing that I think is a thing that should be, that is taking away medical freedom. The censoring of doctors and the threatening of their licenses if they prescribe known treatments. It's incredible that ivermectin is such an issue. I mean, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning thing, and we have people in our county still believing that it's a horse dewormer only. It's because of medical misinformation and medical censorship on the side that's calling to silence misinformation. They're not allowing real facts.
Yeah, so ivermectin is a well-known drug and treatment option, and due to the censorship, it's being kind of squelched in a sense. So informed consent, no medical censorship in a sense, and is that the
no
summation?
Mandates? Mandates are you shouldn't have a blanket mandate. One of the things that when I ran for office, it was early in COVID. My plan was for everyone to get to their personal care physician, have a physical, know what your vitamin D levels are, know what your comorbidities are, know your risk level, and then mitigate off of that. Some people needed to mask at that point. Some people needed to social distance and mask at that point. If that worked for them. I do think the mask debate is still to be settled. I think that we need more science on that, or at least peer-reviewed science, or reviewed science at least. But with
so, in a sense, you've defined medical freedom as people need to have the right to informed consent. They need to be able to have access, and which I guess is basically along the lines of that informed consent, where they have that access to the information without the censorship. And then thirdly, it shouldn't be mandated. Medically, there should be no medical mandates.
No.
And all of this kind of has gotten started and snowballed to basically this Robert Malone event, which is happening on the 19th.
Yep.
And kind of going back to the genesis of your journey in stand-up, how did you go from running for office to now where you're starting this kind of political nonprofit? Like, how did you make that connection? What happened?
Well, I felt like running for office did give me perspective, and still feeling the need for candidates, for a growing of candidates. I really felt that the platform was there. We have a lot of enthusiastic volunteers and supporters, people that really care about this movement, people that are ready to work hard to get stuff done. So it needs to be used in some way. People need to keep the energy and use it for the right things. Instead of going on and tweeting online about something and complaining about it, we want to turn that energy into action, into getting something done in the community for the right reasons and for the true reasons. It's a and then from there we did have a few events that actually came up. So one of the first events that we had that was similar to the Dr. Malone event that we're about to have.
Now, when you were doing these events, was this just you?
No.
And some other folks, or like?
No,
like,
this was.
How did you find other people who were like, let's all get together and let's have an event? Like, how did this happen? Was it social media? Was it your neighbors? Like, how did this connection happen where you go from like, oh, I want to run for office, and then you run, and then you're like, oh man, there's so much more need here, and then you start holding events. Like, how did that whole process happen?
Well, it's kind of, it came out of a group that started meeting during the pandemic for medical freedom. A group of Democrats and Republicans and Green Party and no party preference, and
Kind of
people
just,
that have
wow.
never even looked at politics in their life. But it was such a different group of people that had not worked together before, and I saw the unity in it, and I saw the opportunity for us to unite as a community for a reason, for a cause, instead of for a party. And I think it's a major difference in enthusiasm. I mean, I think the people that were there were all called to it, and they were there to do something. So action is really important for me, and I think that moving forward, we all need to know where to put the action, where to put our time, and know how to be effective, know how things can be changed. We can't be barking up the wrong tree. We have to make sure that we are accurate in our focus, in our action. And then we that group, we had a little committee off of it that was found out about the worldwide freedom events, which were done all over the world. It was one of the most amazing movements that is probably the least televised, thing over the last few years.
Yeah.
But the worldwide freedom movement was hundreds of cities all coming together on the same day and having a protest.
Internationally.
Okay. To over 200 cities. And we were able to connect with people in Germany, in Iran, in Japan, in Ireland, in Australia, Canada, all over the United States. And we were able to plan these rallies together and create the biggest freedom rally in history of the world. And there's nothing that can compare to how many people came out to these rallies with very little press. And you can go back and see them in May and March, I believe, and then July and
And this
August.
was in 2021.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, and there's been 5. I think there's up to 7 that they've done, but Santa Barbara, we only did 2 of them, right? 2 or 3.
I think it was 3, actually.
We did 3. Yes,
it
we
was
did 3. The first one we did was a smaller one. It was on the beach near the pier. That was about 400 people max, 300 to 400 people. The second one we did was at De La Guerra Plaza, and we marched up State Street to De La Guerra Plaza, about 600 people on that one. And then the third one was almost 1,000 people, De La Guerra Plaza as well, and it ended up being our most successful and just really good vibe.
I was there for that one.
Yeah, we all of them had just excellent vibes, very little protests, a few middle fingers every once in a while, but really just a good showing. So essentially, it was this eclectic group of people from almost every conceivable ideological background that realized we shouldn't be mandating medical anything on someone's body. And it kind of just went on from there, it seems like. And then where the initial events, were they more rallies or protests or marches, or was it just kind of gatherings and speakers? Or how did that play out? We had a march and speakers at all the rallies. So and we brought in really amazing speakers. We had doctors and Pastor Rob McCoy and several community members, business owners that were affected by the pandemic, by the mandates, and we had really good documentaries on them. So if anyone wanted to go back and see them, they're timeless. I mean, they were historic events.
Where can someone actually go on the?
They can go on the Stand Up SB Rumble site to see them. Okay, that's the easiest way right now. Or they are also on our website. But Stand Up the Rumble has more videos.
Okay, so people can go on to Rumble.
Yep.
And watch them. Awesome. And then I guess you kind of went from those beginning events, which seemed to just grow and grow and grow, and they started to catch fire. And I guess now it's kind of more to present day, I would say, in a sense.
Since we had the experience with the city doing the events, this all kind of came into this, like the stars aligned for this next event with Dr. Malone, because we weren't planning on doing a lot more big events. We didn't have it in our horizon at this moment. But then I made a phone call, and I made the right phone call. I called Dr. Malone, and he, as soon as I mentioned Santa Barbara, perked up, got really excited, said, "What is it going to take to come? I'll be there." And he made a commitment to me that day that he would come and that we would make it happen. And he's been just amazing to work with ever since. I mean, he's really made this event happen with his reputation and with his kindness.
Yeah. And what do you hope that this event achieves for Santa Barbara and this community?
I hope it does give people a little confidence, a little hope, because there's a lot of people that I believe are starting to feel like that the governments may not have the best interests of the communities at hand. So I think that really I want to give people hope that have maybe still feel alone in Santa Barbara. I want to give people something to stand with, stand on, because I don't think that either party is giving people a good platform. They're not standing up for the people right now, for what people really need. We need better education. We need a stronger community. So we need to unite, and that's going to be on issues, not on party politics.
Agreed, 100%. Now, the other events were marches and counter protest rallies. Is this event going to be similar?
No, we don't want to do protests anymore. It's not our. We want to bring the community in. We want to be inviting and inclusive.
Yeah.
Of the community and we want to talk to people. Yeah. And not have the walls up between us with a protest, because I believe a protest is almost like a wall. You don't want to join into a protest typically. You watch it from the outside unless you've already been riled up. So we want to bring people into this movement. We want people to feel comfortable. We want people to not have to think of the politics of the last few years when they do it. Because it's so divisive.
Yeah, definitely. If I was someone and I'm watching a group of folks march down the street and they oppose my political views, like you said, I'm not going to be like, oh, I want to engage civilly with those people. It's usually the other way around. And back to the event, is it going to be family friendly? Is it no?
Yeah, we want it to be very accessible to everyone in the community, everyone that wants to come. We'll have face painting and Kona ice, so we will have some things for the kids to have a little distraction. There are going to be some musical acts, but they're mild with no cussing, so we should have a
very fun, very family friendly.
Yes, exactly. It's going to be festive. It's going to be fun. It's going to be just inviting. We want people to come and feel comfortable there. We don't want people to bring political signs. If you're listening and you're coming, please leave those at home, because we want people to come and listen and hear what we have to say, rather than put the walls up and the prejudice up right away. Because these are some people that are coming that are amazing people that really have a perspective that should be heard.
Yeah, and it's really, I think we've talked about this a little bit earlier, where these things that are being discussed are not political, really. It supersedes politics, and it's just for the community as a whole. And yeah, like you're saying, if someone's trying to support a political thing, it's like, well, this is not necessarily the place for that. Well, it seems very fun, and I'll be there.
You better be there. Yeah, I hope a lot of people will come. We actually would rather Santa Barbarans come than anyone else.
Yeah.
We want our community to be there, and we're so blessed to be able to put it on and how it's all coming together. It's amazing to be able to see who wants to get involved and who's coming to help. I mean, this is just an awesome community. I love being here and being able to do this.
Agreed. I mean, look at the weather. It's
Yes.
it's beautiful out there.
The weather, the people, this is home. You know, this is my home. Yeah, and that's. I grew up here. I feel like this is where I belong. So.
Yeah, and I know that there's been a lot of folks who are frustrated with the California politics and the way things are going, and they're leaving. But it seems like you have a different response to that, where you're staying, because like you said, this is home. So yeah, I mean, you got to stay.
Yeah, and I think the problem with staying and then getting frustrated with politics and not doing anything about it is it gets on people. So people are leaving. For other things, or they're giving up on politics completely. They just don't care. They just let it happen. But I really feel like we have an obligation in our type of government to be involved. We're not doing our part if we aren't going to these meetings and letting just a party control what happens in our local politics. Is that the best thing for our community, or is that the best thing for a party to stay in power? No.
Yeah.
That's the point of all this redistricting and all that stuff like that that's happening right now, is to give smaller communities a voice, to be able to have some representation. Because if we don't have representation here, we don't have it anywhere. This is
exactly.
And people that come from our neighborhoods and our schools, they're going to know us. They're going to know they're going to want to help us more.
And I would say if actually you are my neighbor, but more or less, I'm going to trust you, Justin, because I know that Justin, you are someone who's in this community, and you're not very likely to wreck your own home, So doing things on a community level, in my opinion, like you're saying, just builds that trust and that transparency and the understanding, because hey, we're in this together, more or less. But moving forward, what would you say is Santa Barbara's goals moving forward? Because after this event, what's the goals and what's the plan?
We really want to start the infrastructure that's needed to grow candidates, and we've already got the base. We've already started that, but it's just as we become more on the map and become more connected, and we get more people that want to work with us, we'll be able to have a seat at the table at some point. And I think that's really important. A lot of people that get angry and want to go to these board meetings, they get there and they don't know anyone. They're not aware of how the process works. So they're banging on the walls and they're not at the table getting anything done. So we want to get a seat to the table. So that's going to involve getting relationships with the people that are already in office and working with them. We can't just go in when we're angry at them. We also have to go in when we're just on the normal days. We need to keep engaged.
Have you had any of those good discussions with currently elected officials?
Yes and no. I mean, a lot of them are approachable, and you can have some face-to-faces with them. But I think that anyone that has the party hooks in them, anyone that's endorsed by a party or has been in party politics for a long time, is jaded by the system or controlled by the system, one of the two. But I really think that a lot of politicians in town just are going to do what their agenda is no matter what. So they don't care what you say to them outside in a closed meeting. They're going to feel empathetic, but it's actions that really show. And actions are the most important thing in a politician.
Yeah.
It's not the words as much as their votes. Their votes are everything. Their votes are everything.
Yeah.
That's what makes the politician. So the words are most of the time distractions. So I feel like words are not good. If a politician is just giving you words all day and not acting and not voting in a way that supports you or that responds to a massive political outcry or a community outcry.
So stand-up is working towards and keeping these elected officials accountable.
We want to be at these meetings. We'd love to help people to get to these meetings, and that's going to take a little bit of personal involvement. People are going to have to want to go. So hopefully we can make it easy and accessible and exciting, and just keep building that base of people that are aware of what goes on, how it goes on, and what can be done to be effective at these meetings. Because when we get in office, we want to know what we're doing. A lot of people that get there because they have popularity or or put in for random reasons, they probably aren't suited for that job. So we have to get people trained, and that takes infrastructure too. So I think there needs to be a 10-year plan, not just a 1-year plan, and I don't see that from the parties. How do we come out of this in 10 years with stronger candidates, a better, more sustainable community where we can find people locally for these positions that are needed, and also work as a community for really important things, education, the environment, and our own medical choices.
Yeah. So what are the solutions? Because as you said before, there's this big problem of people in office aren't listening. Candidates that have run in the past are not adequate. So we need solutions. The status quo's got to change. And what are the solutions to these issues that Stand Up SB is bringing?
I think we got to use technology and a lot of hard work. I think the first part is laying out the infrastructure, making sure people know when, where, how every meeting is happening, and what's going on at them.
And currently, your Stand-Up is already building that infrastructure.
Yes, and I think it starts with what I've been doing a lot with the board meetings. I take a lot of the public comments and I clip them out, I'll give a description. So it gives a media side to these meetings, so people that are not able to attend can start getting the flavor of it and start seeing how it flows and start seeing who is commenting and why they're commenting. You learn a lot when you see the names of people that comment every time, and you see which special interest groups they belong to, and you get to the lay of the land. And so when you're more aware, you're going to be more effective as a candidate. When you're at the table, you're going to be more effective because you have either built relationships or you know what is needed to do to get something done, how to move the needle forward. And it's so important that we have fundamentals and structure, and we don't. It's desperately needed.
Yeah.
I think that's the void that we want to fill, is that void of access to engagement and support for it. Because there is some access, but there's not really a lot of support for people to do it. It's tedious in itself, so there needs to be some help from organizations.
So getting the community engaged and involved by going to the meetings, and then it seems like from there they have the knowledge to actually run for office because they know what the actual issues are, they know how to speak and how the board meetings actually run. So yeah, like you're saying, it's that fundamental knowledge that people don't have. And then, yeah, I guess they kind of bleeds into them actually running for office in a sense.
Yep.
And how is Stand Up SB going from supporting the community to actually getting candidates in office?
I think it takes we have a few people in our community that we'd love to support. So that, we don't necessarily have our members, necessarily training our own members to be candidates, but raising the whole level of the awareness of the community around us, getting behind candidates that support our platform, and holding the candidate or the people in office accountable for breaking the law or for anything that they're doing in office that they shouldn't be doing. That also takes the awareness. So I believe even going to these meetings will make the people that are in office even better, because they're going to have to do things more proper. They're going to not have. They can't break the law and violate the Brown Act all the time. They have to do things right if people are watching.
Yeah,
because they will get in trouble.
And just for the audience sake, the Brown Act is how government meetings should be publicly held and in the public forum, and they should have public access.
Exactly, how they should have public access. We have a right to comment, and it should be a somewhat of a public meeting, because they are elected officials. So. So yeah, there's laws that people will break all the time because no one's watching. If we start being there, we pay more attention, they'll get better at their jobs, and we'll have better politicians through osmosis. Even if we're not able to get in office right away. And then just really making sure that if somebody is taking that sacrifice and is putting their name out there ready to go, that we get behind them and we support them monetarily and with our time and our hard work, because they're taking the sacrifice. So if there's a candidate that is really wanting some support that doesn't have the party behind them, what do? They need the community behind them, and that's who we want in office anyway. That we want people that that work hard, that have integrity, that the community chooses, not bureaucrats, not a special interest group. We have too much at stake for our future here.
Yeah, someone who the community wants and the community supports.
Yep.
I think is the
and
best
that has
candidate to
some
have.
skin in the game in the community. Somebody that's put their time in. So I really feel like we have a lot to work on. We should be applying. We should have applicants for our candidates. We should have interviews. This is something that we need to develop over time. I think as we get bigger and people recognize who we are and what we stand for, and that we are who we say we are.
Yeah.
Then we'll see people that will be able to apply and grow with and help get behind, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a lot of us in the community to find the candidates that are best for these positions, because there's some positions that are really specific. I really think that a good lawyer, lawyer with integrity would be great to run for legislation right now. To run the assembly seat is such a gem of a seat that we have that has already been given to Greg Hart, essentially by the party. But I think that's such a good position that we have no incumbent. It's the first time Santa Barbara has had its own opportunity to have a legislator. It's a seat that I really wish a good, solid lawyer, somebody who knows law, somebody who knows how to write law, how it works, that would be the perfect candidate for that position. So somebody coming out of that type of background, because they're going to go to Sacramento and write law. So we need somebody that's legal minded and knows what they can and cannot do.
And I think also, I feel like, I don't know if it's just a lack of interest, or if it's just, as you mentioned, or that a lot of these candidates are just, in a sense, appointed by a particular party to a certain seat. But we have a lot of incumbents and just open seats that are unchallenged in our county currently. Like, for example, we have Joyce Dudley, who's our DA, and Joe Holland, who's
Joyce Dudley is no longer running.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She said yesterday, so
oh,
I believe it's
okay.
yesterday, but she's
so
not
then
running.
who's our is it?
She's endorsed somebody.
Okay.
But that's a really interesting story. Joyce Dudley leaving it for and citing social justice as the reason because it's changed so much. So that's politics in our town that's affected us, and they're now. I think Joyce Dudley's a pretty well liked on the Democratic side. I think she's a candidate that they would have liked to have longer, and she goes out kind of calling them out for the last 10 years of politics, which she has not enjoyed. So she's leaving her position, and the new guy coming in doesn't sound like he's going to be playing ball with that type of politic.
Really?
So it's an interesting time for Santa Barbara, and it's something that could possibly shake up Sheriff Brown's race with Juan Camarena. So there's definitely some changing times. You know, so people that look outside of the party and realize that right now in Santa Barbara, one of the first things I learned running is 80% uninformed. I'm sorry, but we don't look for information in Santa Barbara. We accept the headlines essentially. So very educated community, but uninformed when it comes to the politics of the world and awareness of what's going on.
And especially, I would assume that our local politics, which is the thing that affects us the most, we're really uninformed on. Now, I guess here's another question. And I would assume everyone asks when you have formally run for office, are you or will you or are you thinking of running again?
I've thought about it. I would love to say that I'm ready for some of these positions. I only feel like I want to run because there's no other candidates. That's the problem. I feel like I'm called to run because no one else has stepped up to take a seat, and I don't want to run. It's not a goal for me to be in office. Will I run? Yes. If there is a position and there is a calling, it's going to happen again. I'm sure. I am a leader, and I feel like I'm here for a reason. You know, if I ever get in office, great. But it's not something that I go to bed dreaming about. I don't want it, but I will take it and I will work hard to get it. And after I have it, I will work hard. And I think it's crucial that people like me run. I have business acumen. I have a lot of awareness. I know how the meetings work now. I really think that people like me should run. I pride myself in integrity and honesty. Those are things that I want in candidates. I want that for our community. So I think it's really important for people to take that sacrifice, even though they may not want to, even though it may not seem like it's. They may not know they're not going to win, But sometimes just taking that step and saying I'm going to try, that's so important, especially nowadays when we need good leaders. And if you feel like you have the resume, and if you feel like you have the drive to do it, reach out to me. I will get behind you. I will work hard for people that want to work hard for our community and do it for the right reasons. It's really sad that we don't get behind good candidates. It feels like good candidates are discouraged. They're left alone. They're not supported. They need us. They need us to help them get in office. They need us to vet them, and know that they're worthy of it. It's not going to just be letting people in office. It's going to be working hard and proving that we can do it. So we need to have a process where we know the candidates that are in office and know who we're voting for. And
Stand Up is working towards figuring out some kind of solution to that problem.
Just getting the basics down first, and then realizing that we can't do everything in one night, in one day, in one year, but we can start with the fundamentals. And then when we get this fundamental stuff down, we can add on more, and we can add on more each time. So the fundamentals right now, and they have been for the last year, are getting to these meetings, getting to know processes, getting to know how to run for office. And we know that now, but I think we have this growing phase where we have to keep pushing forward with the fundamentals, knowing how things work, and then getting behind candidates that are willing to go. Right now, this is a good time for candidates. I mean, we have, but it's also a week away from deadlines. So if anyone's going to run, they better run now.
Yes, March 11th.
March 11th.
The filing deadline for any candidate who wants to run for office in the June election. Well, not most candidates.
There is going to be some opportunity for people in November too, for some positions, but there is a lot of positions that need to be active on now.
So the basic fundamentals are getting an awareness, are becoming more involved in going to the meetings and holding the elected officials aware. But I would say, and it seems like that's just the launching point to get better people in office. So we want to make sure that what we have now is good, and then improve upon that and get good folks in office, or better folks in office.
And also, there's a point where we have to really make sure we're working with people that are in office already. So we can't come in with angst all the time. In fact, a lot of the time that's where you get nothing done. When you come in with just passion and anger, it doesn't work most of the time. So we really need to build relationships with these people in office. It should not be a fight all the time. We need to find things that we can agree on with people in office. Bottom line. It can't be red versus blue or black versus white. It has to be, let's find things we can agree on and work on together, at least.
And I think what's preventing that is that political party angst that you were talking about. I think that's kind of where it's at. But March 19th is the Malone event. And I know it's going to be a lot of fun.
Everyone's invited. You don't have to be a part of any party. We want everyone there.
Well, it will be a party.
Yes,
It will be a party. Everyone is invited to the March 19th Dr. Malone community event. It's going to be
Chase Palm Park.
At Chase Palm Park, and from 11 to 2
to 1
to 11 to 1. It's going to be a blast. If you want more info, go to standupsb.com. You can find all the information there. And if you want to volunteer, you can also do that at standupsb.com as well. Thank you, Santa Barbara, for tuning in, and you all have a good night.